what is reality and what is relativity. There is a confusion where I see many people in developed countries, even scientists, slightly unclear about what reality is. Now, I will present to you both a philosophical and a scientific understanding of things, but of course, with a limited knowledge, I would be more philosophical than scientific in nature. That is the orientation of this discussion. Now, let us take reality. First barrier in understanding the concept of reality is that everything that we see around ourselves, feel, or believe to uh, exercise some kind of control over is only and only from our point of view. That means an individual, himself or herself, is the center of the universe. Now, of course, this would be very difficult for everyone to comprehend. God forbid, it is uh, a bit relative in nature while you try to understand this. So, every person tries to assume that within this universe, everything that he or she perceives is reality. Correct? Since we can only rely on our own selves to determine what the term real is, and everything is relative to us. So, if it's the size of a planet, we would try to compare its relative size to ourselves or our planet, Earth. It is a major barrier in understanding the concept of reality. So, reality for a color blind person would be the absence of certain colors or the misinterpretation of certain colors that may exist for another person, right? So, his or her reality would be different from another person's reality, right? So, it's fairly simple to understand. But the confusion starts when you fail to understand the concept of time and space when you talk about reality and relativity. Here is where the confusion starts. So, every individual starts to believe that space and time is relative to themselves, and the reality of space and time is only what is assumed by them. For example, many people may look at the scientific concept of time. Others may see time passing faster during some part of their routine or day, and on other occasions they might find it moving slower, only relative to them. Let's say if you are waiting for someone important, you're waiting for your date at a restaurant, it seems to you that time is moving very slow. Your restlessness, your assumption about the concept of time, the anxiety of the wait when you're waiting for someone, your anxiousness will actually force you to believe that time is moving slower, right? So let's say you have to wait 5 minutes, but it would be so difficult for you to wait those 5 minutes because of the anxiety, because of the excitement, because of the expectations related to the outcome of the date. Time starts moving very slowly. But let's say you are being evaluated and you're sitting in your sat, which most people have to go through this evaluation in order to get into college. You start to believe that time is moving very fast, and you would want it to slow down. You're looking up at the clock again and again. So it is our own interpretation also. In addition to the scientific explanation for the passage or the passing of time, there is also another aspect where we ourselves are interpreting the concept of time. Sometimes we feel time has moved really fast, sometimes we start believing that it's moving too slow. Now, that's fairly odd for many people to understand, but this is, however, also a scientific concept associated with philosophy, psychology, and other such sciences. Comes down to the same thing, that reality is what we think is real. And since we can only see the world from our own eyes and from our own perspective, the reality is limited to our conscious. And we don't have a collective conscious. That means we cannot see the world through the eyes of others, neither perceive it, nor understand it, nor feel it like the other people who are around us. We can only assume that this is what they would be feeling, or this is how things would be for them. Now, this is a very essential concept for you to understand before you start understanding space and time. Our thoughts can take us back in time, just like if you have nostalgia for a certain thing, it may bring back memories from the past, which would be fairly clear, vivid. You would be able to imagine in your mind how a certain thing took place in the past. If I take you to the same place or I show you the picture of that place, you would be able to travel back in time only in your thoughts, not physically, only in your thoughts, to remember what you may have done at that time or what you may have felt at that time. When you talk about space and time, right? It's a very, very unique concept because many people have not actually studied the concept of reality before studying relativity, because there is where it emerges from. Fortunately or unfortunately, your reality is only limited to yourself, and what you feel or believe is real. That's it. So, when you talk about reality, there is where space and time is. The concept of space and time comes from reality. So, you revisit first what is real. That's why before discussing space and time, I thought we should talk about reality itself. So, therefore, space and time itself, which I was studying yesterday, they were saying 3 dimensions exist for space and the 4th for time. But all these dimensions exist in a reality. That reality in itself is a separate realm. How about that? It is that vessel, it is that bottle, it is that. I would not call it a dimension, but it would certainly be something different. So, the concept of reality is the container in which space and time exist. Therefore, there is misinterpretation that there are three dimensions and one dimension is time. Actually, all of this is in a container, and that container is reality. And the reality is only perceived by you, that is only one person, that is you. You cannot experience reality outside of yourself. There is, the technology has limited us to only ourselves. And the concept of collective conscious does not exist. Collective conscious would be where you would be able to see, believe, feel the world according to others, how they feel. Very unique concept. So you'll have to think about it. Because continuously, I think we are pushing forward the four dimension theory. Yesterday, I was watching a video on YouTube, and it insisted that there are four dimensions and nothing beyond that. But there is a container, and that container is our reality, and our reality is only limited to ourselves. So this is the first thing. I'm sorry it took a lot of time for me to explain to you. And of course, relativity, however mentioned before in this video, would be more understandable if you understand another reality. Another reality is our limitations of understanding reality is a major impediment in understanding space and time. We have limitations. These limitations, these natural limitations, these natural truths, these facts are one reason for why our reality is limited. It is limited by our intelligence. Yes, of course. Faculties are there, but in addition to our faculties, it is limited by our intelligence. And we want to expand on that intelligence by appending it with artificial intelligence. We believe that we will use artificial intelligence to somehow increase our understanding of reality. But that again is untrue, because we won't be able to experience it firsthand. Artificial intelligence will just help append a reality that we have presumed exists. Pretty difficult for you to understand right now, but it will take some time, and then you will be able to understand this. See, artificial intelligence has many functions, many utilities, but it is actually supposed to extend the abilities of our faculties to understand the world better, to increase or broaden our intelligence. However, artificial intelligence again is just our own creation, we are trying to append our existing faculties and intelligence through a third person view. And that is not possible, because we will again be relying on our understanding of reality. I know it will settle in a bit, because I am from a third world country, from a poor country. This is not my area, but thought has now been limited to certain people, and the evolution of thought therefore does not take place when you only rely on certain academics who are writing on a certain subject and not understanding the concept of reality. And then again, the concept of relativity comes in. Our reality compels us to think about everything relative to ourselves, whether it be day and night, whether it be the passage of time, whether it be the space where we are. And of course, we've studied the theory of relativity, and we've understood that the earth is in constant motion. The earth itself is rotating around its axis, and also in orbit around the sun. We are in constant state of motion. We found it out much later, but of course, the scientific foundation of it now exists. And we've gone through this scientific debate that we would feel at this current moment, due to so many scientific realities and natural truths, that we are right now standing at a stationary place, but in actuality, we are in motion in the universe. So I am right now in a state of motion in the universe. In the entire scheme of things, I am in a state of motion. Therefore, relativity becomes a very unique concept. Now, of course, many people would see me in the entire scheme of things being sitting on a chair and making this video. However, I think that within the scheme of things and in the universe, I have already traveled so many miles. So many miles. So, therefore, relativity, this, since we have studied, would be much easier for you to understand, but relativity also limits me to only my intelligence and comparing everything to myself, ourselves, herself, himself. That's the problem. So, therefore, the concept of space and time needs to be revisited. And we need to understand that everyone would have their own container, or perhaps we would be in a certain container. Once you understand that you would be in a certain container, there is where the phenomena comes in of the multiverse and the metaverse and so many other things. That is how it's a simpler way to understand how this concept of metaverse has come about. Because they have understood that we are in one container and that container is my container. And one is to modify my own container, that is through existing in metaverse, and somehow taking control, then designing everything around yourself. And of course, we can keep talking about this because there are so many other concepts that require clarity, both in my mind and yours. Therefore, I want to start a debate, a discussion on your understanding of space and time. Because we have studied relativity in so many different ways. People have discussed this concept so many times. What is space and time? How do we define it? Etc., etc. But the truth is that we are thinking about everything relative to our own selves. And of course, you can revisit my lecture on aliens also. We'll talk about that as well. But I think we'll leave it here, and I'll ask you to give your input. I think there will be hundreds and thousands of people around the world who would be listening to this video, watching it maybe, if they find time for it, and give their advice as to what would be their input regarding this. There are many intelligent people in the world who are thinking about these things. Right now, because of YouTube and all these videos and everything, it's allowing us to do these things, to discuss these things. So come up with your ideas, please share your ideas with me. I would like to elaborate more on this concept, but I think I'll make another video on that. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe this video and share it as well if you like it.